Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. This is episode number 20, and this is the power of the ask. In this episode, we are speaking with Jacqueline Hawk, who is a corporate veteran turned communications and confidence coach, who is going to talk us through the power of the ask. What it means to feel and know your own worth when you are bold in speaking, and the throat chakra, and helping women find ways to shift their perspectives on feeling that they are not good at asking to feeling confident in asking for what they want. She is a mother to an infant, and she empowers and equips women, especially moms, to having a thriving personal life and a career without feeling like you're grinding away, sacrificing one for the other, or having to choose. Jacqueline, thank you so much for coming on. Can you explain a little bit more about your background to the audience so they can get to know you a little bit more?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's such a big question. So thinking about where to start. So what you'd mentioned I help women avoid is basically the situation that I grew up in and found myself in, right? I had a very traditional family. I'm born and raised in Southern California, but I traveled the world. I went to the South for college, came back to LA and was like, I'm not ready for this. I went to London, San Francisco, and now in Southern California. But throughout all of that, my upbringing was very much get good grades, do your job, put your head down. By doing a good job and putting your head down, you are going to get the things you want, right? In a career, It's the promotions, it's the upward, it's the relationships, this and that. But what I found was that was a trap. I ended up instead very much like overworked, exhausted, frustrated, and my needs just not getting met at all, helping everybody else, businesses, individuals, you name it, which I do now too. But there was a lack of balance between what I needed to actually thrive, not survive. And it meant, and even specifics, it meant everything from, and I'll give some work examples, but it goes for personal. And this is where I think people often think about work, but it applies to the personal. Of my first promotion, I was passed up and a woman told me, quote, "You didn't ask," gut wrenching. I burned out. I had issues with like my reproductive system because I was so stressed. My relationships were the type where I would ask, well, I wouldn't really ask. I thought I was asking for stuff and wouldn't get it and be like, why is nobody listening to me? I'm doing all the things for other people. But what happened, a very pinnacle moment when I was in London, and one of my best mentors was a man, but he had asked me at one point, well, what do you want before you change jobs and change a couple things? And nobody had ever asked me that question before. And I didn't have an answer. He said, think about it. And as I sat down to think about, and this is also how the power of the ask and the 4 steps came about, when I started to really think about what I wanted in my own needs, not only in my job, but even the relationship, the partnership I was in, it started to shift everything. I had some people walk away from me. I had some people say no, but I finally was like, this is empowering, and it's to get me where I need to be. So if I'm helping others, I'm also actually helping myself. And through that, it started to bring up all the limiting beliefs, the guilt, the fear, the imposter syndrome, that you can't, I'm supposed to help others more, and forcing me to actually work through them, as well as think about my communication style, which, like, living in London was seen as an aggressive American just by culture.
They're different over the pond.
Very. But also you read Forbes, Harvard Business Review, even just some of the personal blogs talks a lot about, well, women aren't heard. There was one man saying, woman asks, and it's like noise, or she repeats herself. Pisses me off. I don't know if I can use that word on the podcast. But it meant me also starting to look at my communication styles. And as I started to do all of these things, my life changed dramatically. My health recovered because I started going, what do I actually specifically need? How do I create this? How do I ask for information or time or the jobs that I want? And I started getting yeses to everything. And even if I got a no, I had the mindset and the skills to be able to still have a conversation to get to a yes, or something that was mutually beneficial. And after 16 years in corporate America, I'd also started coaching people internally on this sort of stuff, because they'd look at me, frankly, they go, how did you do this? And I would say, it's all in the power of the ask.
Yeah. And so what is the power of the ask? Like what is like like the 4 steps that you need? And what does it really mean? Like the power of the ask?
Yeah. It's twofold. There's power in asking for what you want. That's how we get the things that we want.
Mm-hmm.
But the power in the way that I teach this in this 4-step system is I actually teach women how to tap back into themselves and ask themselves questions. So there are so many systems and frameworks out there that I call them a Band-Aid. You can follow steps, but they don't work if you aren't aware of yourself, if you don't have your own answers. They're temporary solutions. Part of my power, the ask, is actually teaching women and men how to get the answers themselves within a framework.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a return to home, because I think we're living in a society where we're looking for answers externally. Best ones are inside of us. And if we look to everybody else, we're not happy. That's why we're in the boat we're in. So it helps you ask for the things you want, but also how to ask yourself to get the answers that give you the confidence, all the beliefs you need to then ask.
Can you give an example of like an empowering way for a woman to ask, let's say for like a raise? Like what would be like a do, and then what would be like a don't?
Great question. So when we talk about even the 4 steps of the power of the ask, goes into your question. So the do's and the don'ts are actually very similar. I'll back in to the answer with the don'ts, because I think that'll help a lot of women resonate with what they might do or not do. I think that's how we all learn, is being able to see, oh, I do that or I don't do that. So where I realized I and others were going wrong was not actually sitting down and thinking about what do you want. We cruise through the day so fast. A loose idea does not count. I want a promotion, I want a raise. That's a loose idea. What does that actually look like? Right? You got to get some specifics on this, or you might get a promotion and still not end up happy, or raise and not end up happy. There's a reason why. Other don't is one of the hardest things is getting buy-in from whoever your stakeholder is, a boss, a partner, a friend, your daycare. So actually thinking about what's important to them. How do you get their buy-in? A lot of people forget that, right? They make it about themselves. Don't is succumbing to your limiting beliefs, the guilt, the fear. I think a lot of ones that come up frequently is somebody else is busy. Now's not the right time. Be asked, right? I'll figure it out another way, even if it's a burden. Hearing yourself say those things and going down that path, rather than catching, maybe being like, well, is that true? Or is there another way? Right. It's amazing. I had surveyed a lot of my female clients, asking some of these questions just to re-gauge. And those are the first things that come out of their head that they just then listen to. So listening to those are mistakes that hold you back. And another one is not paying attention to a nonverbal cue, right?
Not paying attention to the what?
Verbal and nonverbal cues.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just cut out a little bit. The verbal and nonverbal cues.
Your body language, your speed, your tone of voice. Are you clear? Are you concise? Do you waffle on? So those are the 4 things that I had noticed I wasn't doing, and other women, and I say men too, weren't doing. And that's why we often jumping job, in partnerships, burned out. So the do's are essentially actually all 4 of those.
Okay.
Here's the thing too. I would bet a lot of moms are saying, well, I do some of those, but the power's in all 4. And you've got to trust me on that one, because a lot of people do 1, 2, you're scared.
Yeah.
So the power is in actually avoiding all 4, and therefore doing the clarity on what you want, thinking about your stakeholder to get buy-in, thinking your beliefs, and looking at your communication style.
Yeah. And I know, like you had mentioned something, it's like feeling confident. I think one of the things too, I know, especially for me, is feeling bold and confident to actually ask for what it is I'm wanting. How can you help women start feeling their own worth and boldness within themselves to speak up and voice for, what they're asking for?
Yeah, there are a couple of things coming, because I always find it helpful to add a couple of answers. They land differently with different women, right? So one of the first ones I always think of is, why don't you feel bold? What's holding you back? Because if we don't look at what's holding us back, it's like an invisible pain. When you actually start to look at it and identify it, you can also start to go, is that really true? Is that an issue? And sometimes you find it's not, or it's your perspective immediately to give you some of that confidence rather than just letting it hold you back or giving you a strategy that doesn't matter because you got that ball and chain anyway. So I think that's a great place for everybody to start is, why do you feel that you can't be bold? And for a lot of women, I think there's, well, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be aggressive. These are a lot of things that society has put upon us women that I think are BS.
Yeah.
Because there's a way to do it. Doesn't mean you're pushy or aggressive. Another thing I think about too is a couple strategies that have come to mind. Cooling about going through the 4 steps of the power of the ask, thinking about what you want actually gives women a lot of confidence to sit down and think about it and pause and go through the actual program, the steps that they are. You walk away suddenly being like, I've got this. I know how specific it is. Something to help to think about another time in your life where you felt comfortable asking.
Yeah.
And we, in the type of training I went through, we call it an anchor. Think about that. It changes your nervous system to hold on to that confidence, that joy, that whatever it actually is, hope of what I'm also get, but also a moment when you are confident to embody that and use that when you go for your ask. We call it anchoring.
Yeah, I like that idea because it's good to remember what it felt like to be bold and excited to, ask for what you want. It's always good to bring ourselves back to the high vibrations of, what it felt like to get what you want.
And that's exactly a vibration, because you also think about, and this is why I share, different things, because different ones will land, of even how good does it feel when you and you feel empowered, you've done it, regardless of the outcome. You're like, damn, I did it. And how good is it going to feel? Get yes. Like, use that vibration to propel you forward.
Totally. I agree. And so what is something that you can, tell us about, the throat chakra and speaking and, women changing their mindset of, I'm not good at asking, to, yes, I can ask for what I want and I'm confident in this. What are some things you can let us know about, like the throat chakra?
Yeah, I love when we did a pre-conversation, the throat chakra. And I will say to you, caveat, I am not necessarily an expert in this area, but given my deep tool belt, this is an area of expert, because I love to look at it holistically. And not only do I have the corporate experience in science, but I do a lot of energy work myself as well. And I'm trained in a number of different things. So when we talk about the throat chakra, and I wrote this down because I was like, even I want to be concise and clear. And that's actually a strategy for a lot of us, is feel free to write stuff down when you're asked, what are your key points? It's like, not shy on that. That's empowering to know that you have. So I did the same. So the way that I look at the throat chakra, and we'll go from big to small, is really a gateway between the lower body, your heart, and your head. Your head rules a little bit too much these days. So it represents and owns self-expression. That includes the self-praise, right? Do I feel comfortable honoring my needs and what I've done? And do I have the ability to speak? And sometimes we think of asking as the big, bold speaking truth. Sometimes it's also asking for a different coffee order. It is sending back your order because it was wrong. It's asking for a different playgroup time. There's a scale of all of this that fits within asking, as well as the throat chakra. And a lot of the questions get, well, what if it's blocked? What does it feel like? And how do we actually balance it? Right? Would you want me to go into a little bit of that quickly?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, especially like learning how to balance it, especially if people are feeling like they are blocked.
Yeah. So to know if you're blocked is simply, how do you feel about speaking your personal truth? Again, it could be asking for a coffee order, to asking you a promotion or raise, or asking your partner for support, or just anything, right? Like, do you feel fearful, hesitant to speak up? That includes expressing your thoughts or even anxiety. Some people People struggle to feel creative. Think about the verbal and nonverbal cues. Do you find yourself a little bit anxious, or do you feel grounded? A lot of people talk about manifestation, right? Are you willing to create and speak things to manifest it into reality? Some people experience sore throats, thyroid issues, sore necks. There are a couple of things that you might be going, okay, that's it. And you possibly have a blocked chakra. How do you balance it? Well, when you balance it, what you're looking at can effectively communicate. You may still feel a little bit of anxiety, but you can still actually do it. Some of this doesn't always go away completely, but you can still do it. I was breathing into the space. The color of the chakra is blue. So personally, I love thinking about breathing into a cool blue color throat and imagine space, right? Rather than maybe being clamped down. Sometimes I do a bit of yoga, and like cat cow is a great one, as well as just head and neck rolls. And then if there are any mantras that speak to you, like I can communicate clearly, I speak my truth. It's all very helpful. So there's some energetic as well as actual speaking itself.
Wow, that's really good. I mean, I never really realized like if you have thyroid issues or like a tight neck, like that could be a symptom of, a blockage.
It could be a lot of things. And that's why I always have a bit of a caveat. Like I practice something called the body code, which is a form of muscle testing. And you could, for example, have a sore throat or thyroid, and it could be something else.
Yeah.
But
we are not doctors.
Right?
Perfect. So is there anything else that you want to touch up on before I get into my 4 questions to ask you?
Great question. I think I always like to come back to maybe a little more spontaneous. Asking sometimes seems to be, there's a phrase, an invisible problem. I know a lot of women, and especially moms, they will say, oh, I'm terrible at asking. Oh, I don't ask enough. And they don't do anything about it. And they stay in their situation. Tired, overworked. I'll get through it. There will be a better time. There isn't. It just perpetuates.
Yeah.
Because I was that way as well. So I want to call that out, because we may have women and mamas going, oh, I'm not that great at it. If you don't do anything to change it, it's going to stay. Or if it was like me, it might get worse before it gets better. When I found these 4 things. And what's really cool is when we think about actually asking, it's not about just blurting out your ask. That may be a starting point. To get your yeses, there is that preparation. And that's where these 4 steps, I think, are super powerful. And again, doing what I do, I'm like, yep, all 4 are critical. Even if you start with one of the 4, the clarity, the alignment with your stakeholder, your beliefs, your communication style, it will be making a difference. You think, I don't ask, it'll get better, something will change, there'll be better timing. You're falling into a trap. Change it.
Yeah. So what's one thing that a listener can do starting today to help push them forward and getting ready to do the ask? What is something that they can do today?
Start by thinking about what you want. I would say the reason that it sounds so simple, 9 out of 10 conversations I have, when we get into it, people don't really know what they want.
Yeah.
It's huge. And how can you ask? How can somebody understand what you want if you don't actually know?
Exactly. And, you would suggest like, write it down, think about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. There was one of the times I was delivering this live for about 120 entrepreneurs for the SoGal Ventures, back pre-COVID. So we were all in person. It was funny because on social media, they'd taken photos and were posting like, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So if there's anything you need to remember, it could be that line from the Spice Girls song.
Oh, I love that. That's good.
To remember, like, what do you want? Immediately, I was like, how do I know the Spice Girls? There was such an age difference. Think about what you want on a serious note. Yeah. And 2, I'm happy to share, like you said, we've got the show notes, my website, where there is a 4-step self-guided program where you can actually learn the steps and how to tap into all the answers for yourself. My framework guides you through the process. It's how you build and ask. Also, it extracts the answers from you. So happy to share that.
Perfect. Yes. All of Jacqueline's information will be in the show notes below if you'd like to contact her, have a consultation, see if you guys can get on the same page, and, you know, she can help you with the power of the ask. Well, Jacqueline, I do have 4 questions I ask all my guests. And the first question I have for you is, who and what inspires you?
It's a big category. I am truly inspired by women who are honest and direct.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I think society has wired us to shy away from it. I think it's a very inspiring trait, and there's a way to do it without being pushy or aggressive. So women who are honest and direct, I'm always inspired by.
I think that's a great answer, because there's so many people in the world, I feel, that are not forthcoming. They're shy at speaking, or they just kind of tell you what you want to hear because they don't want to ruffle any feathers, and, just kind of fake. So it's nice to like know people and be around people that, will tell you how they are, how they feel, and get a real answer from.
Yes. I shy away from naming one person that's honest and direct, because I think it can be done in different ways.
Totally.
And we don't have to just look at one other person to say that's the way to be. We each get to find, and again, why I love how the power of the ask system has been developed, if you learn to find your own way, because to be authentic.
Yeah. Okay. So the second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
It's okay to have my own needs.
Yeah.
Rather than just focusing and understanding on others' needs and how to work with them and help them. It's okay to have my own needs. And especially as a mom, we focus so much on our children and our partners, often at the expense of ourselves. If I didn't learn that, I wish I'd learned it basic. I'm teaching my daughter that.
Yeah.
I should have done it sooner, but if you don't know it now, learn it too.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think especially moms, we all struggle with trying to fit in that time for us to take care of our needs, and then think about, what do we want? What's going to fulfill us? What am I missing? Why am I feeling empty? And it's okay. It's okay to have, the feelings of needs, and to have our cup filled up too, and take time for ourselves. And because then we'll just only be better and present for our families if we're taking care of ourselves,
It's the phrase, put your oxygen mask first, right? You get on a plane, they say, put yours on before your children, or you are no good to anybody. And it goes for all of us. Like, what are the things we need? Big or small, ask for them, fill them. And I think that's a big piece too, is sometimes we can fulfill some of our needs, but not all of them. And if we're trying to do all of it, it's really not going to work. And that's where asking others for that help and support really comes into play.
Totally. I mean, honestly, it takes a village to raise a family.
Oh my God.
I mean, and honestly, and that's my thing too, like voicing that I need help. Hey, I got to do things. I need some help here, like I'm drowning, like I'm all by myself.
Right. And
help.
And it is not a reflection of being a bad mom or a bad woman, which I truly I have noticed, and I want to be respectful of time. It was fascinating. There was a moment where I noticed almost like my internal wiring changed, of going well, this is okay to wait a minute. Now, if I do this, I feel like a bad mom. And I was able to notice it and go, whoa, is this what happens to all of us women and moms? And it was actually throughout pregnancy and even motherhood of seeing some of these shifts in my wiring to at least be able to catch it and go, no, I can ask for help just because I'm not able to do this, or I need help this one day. It takes a village to make sure that, back to, I've got needs that are met, baby has needs, that everybody can be okay, rather than one at the expense of the other. Because I think that's the risk. If we don't honor our own needs, we don't ask, if we don't lean on or create our village, somebody's going to suffer, and they don't need
to. And the mom guilt thing is so real. Especially, the women that have to actually leave the house and go to work and be somewhere. I could totally feel that mom guilt of you can't be there. I mean, it's like a toss up, I don't know. Mom guilt is real, and it's different for everybody because everyone's situation is different. But I know, even I used to feel asking for help, I'd feel guilty, asking for help, because wait, I could do this, but I needed help, and that was like me just being brave and bold and just be like, not, hey, I have needs.
Yeah, because just because you're asking for help doesn't mean you can't do it. It's kind of like it's interesting how many people think of these concepts in terms of like job and career, and it's exactly the same in our personal life.
Mm-hmm.
You hit a certain role in a career, you have to learn to start delegating, or you consider not doing your good job as like a leader. You could equate that to a family. There's a leadership or a management role, and you have to delegate to be able to do other things.
Yeah.
Right. It's not that you can't do it. You know you can do it. Others know we can do it. You just got to be able to pick and choose. Harvard Business Review has a great article called Who's Got the Monkey? Oh. And it looks at it like you've got monkeys, I've got monkeys, and oftentimes we end up with everybody else's monkeys. Mm-hmm. So how do we figure out which are yours and mine? And it's a great, simple way to remember a lot of this. And even with your village and asking for help and getting a little bit of like space.
Yeah, totally. No, I got to check out that article. Okay. So my third question is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Taking a breath between everything I do. So once we're done, I've got a meeting shortly after, but just getting up and taking a breath and it's energetically cutting cords.
Yeah.
Right. So all the energy doesn't pile on from one thing after another. It's a reset. It's a break. It's important. Yeah.
Sounds like it would be what do I want to say? Like just detoxifying, like you're just relaxed and ready and settled to go into the next thing and not feeling all amped up from like the previous thing. That's a really good, I love that because sometimes like I could take the energy into my next thing, and then I'm feeling like extra jittery.
100%. Yeah. And it's all these things I figured out, like tying it back to the power of the ask is literally going through my day and having trained myself to be like, what do I want? What do I need? Oh, I've taken all this energy through. What do I need instead? A little detoxify between. Yeah.
And my last question for you is best advice you've ever received.
Oh my gosh, this is such a big one. Can I share two?
Of course.
Some of the best advice was from that mentor of go think about what you want and then come back to me. Like how many people actually do that? Like I do that now because it's my profession, but thinking about what I want and then being able to present it, my God, it was mind blowing. So think about what you want versus other people. It doesn't mean you can't grant them also what they want, but at least you're going to have a point of view as well to know if you feel comfortable. That's empowering and that's confidence. But the second one, it's funny, I almost got so excited. I was like, what is the second one? Once you ask for something or share, you just have to hand it over to the other person and know you cannot control how they respond. Often try and anticipate everything. And it behooves us to anticipate. And in the Power of the Ask program, there's some things you can think about to help with that, to get a better response, timing or whatever. But we cannot control what's going to happen in somebody else's response. We need to know we've done the best, ask the best way we can, and trust that whatever comes back, we can also then handle ourselves. It was hugely freeing advice and thing to remember of, all right, yeah, done my part.
Exactly. And then just give it to the universe. Let go of the control.
Right. They will grant it. They won't. If not, there's a reason. There's something better out there, but I have done my part. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, Jacqueline, I appreciated you coming on, talking about all your knowledge and helping us women be more powerful and asking. Is there one last word before we say goodbye?
It's an ask. I would invite the listeners to think about, what do you want to ask for today? Maybe it's right after you're done listening, but I invite you to ask for something that you otherwise wouldn't have or have really wanted to. That's it.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. Please stay tuned for next week as we will continue talking about communication and how to be better at it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.